Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Jamerica Haynes here with me today. How you doing, Jamerica?
I'm doing great, Cedric. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, quite well. Now, I really appreciate you coming to us here in HD, ready to tell your story and ready to present yet another amazing story here on America's Next Motivator. Can you tell me a little bit about where you're from?
Yes, I can. I am from Seattle, Washington.
Okay, Seattle, Washington's in the building. Shout out to everybody out there in Seattle.
Thank you.
Yes, everybody out there in that neck of the woods. Shout out to everybody from Ohio, New York, all the tri-state areas across the U.S. who may be tuning in here. I want to appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by, and feel free as we get into this conversation. Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a podcast, okay? This is a TV show, specifically America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley. Feel free to drop your questions and comments in the comment section as we have our conversation, all right? Now, Jamerica, did you actually grow up in Seattle?
I actually grew up in Tacoma, Washington, which is south of Seattle. And so I was born and raised here in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow. Now, what's the difference in terms of geography, population? What's the difference?
We are the most northwestern state in the lower 48. I would say our most northern state would be Alaska, but as far as the continental USA, we are the far northwestern here in the country.
Oh,
yes.
Really?
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And more so Tacoma than Seattle?
Tacoma and Seattle, they're both in Washington State.
Well, no, I mean, it's one further north than the other.
Yes, Seattle is north of Tacoma.
Okay, got it. So do you all get any sort of Alaskan culture there in Seattle? Is it any resemblance of the lifestyles?
I would say definitely the outdoors for number one. I would just say the geography is very mountainous. So a lot of trees, mountains, water. I would say that's what both states have in common.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Some of my favorite things to watch on TV involve people being out in Alaska, finding ways to, eat and thrive. People eat and thrive in that region. Yes, they do. Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about what it was like for you growing up out there?
Well, Washington State has a population of 3% of African-American people. Okay. And so growing up was very interesting because I was oftentimes in very diverse areas, meaning that there were other people of color, our Native Americans, Asian, Pacific Islanders. And so there was that diversity component, but oftentimes I was the only child of color in my school. So that was a very interesting experience to live through. And then I would also say what I really loved about being in the Northwest is just we really care about the environment. We're really into recycling, conservation for our marine life, otters, octopuses, anything that you can think of. We were raised to really treat our environment with respect. So those are a few things that come to mind.
Right.
Yes.
Talk about how clear the night sky is out there.
I would say it's pretty clear. I believe it's really due in part to, like I just said, us really just being conscious of the environment, making sure that we clean properly. I know there was a huge initiative that if you go to wash your car, take it to a car wash so that the soap suds and all of the drainage doesn't end up in our water systems. And so, I would say that's a big reason why we have such, clear skies and just a beautiful land. We really make a point to take care of it.
Sure. I take every opportunity to learn. So I've never been to the state of Washington.
You should visit.
And I always hear great things about it. And I also read an article recently that talked about the difference in clarity of the night sky. It turns out there is a scale from like 1 to 10 of how clear your night sky is, depending on the pollution levels and stuff like that. I'd imagine you guys get some pretty good views out there, especially at nighttime.
Yeah, it's fun. And during the daytime, especially, you can see Mount Rainier in the background pretty much wherever you are in Puget Sound for the most part.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So, for those of you who are new to the America's Next Motivator platform, what we do is we talk about your life. We talk about what you experienced and what sorts of things you got into when you were young, and then we talk about your middle years, and then we talk about your adult life. This way, when young people or adults watch this episode in retrospect, they understand how it is that you became the person that you are today. So
Definitely.
with that being said, can you walk us through a day in your childhood?
Yes. So I mentioned that I was born and raised in Tacoma, and my family's originally from the Midwest, Detroit, Michigan. And they came here
Okay.
because my maternal grandmother's spouse was in the military. And we have a base in Tacoma called Fort Lewis. And
Okay.
so, with my mother and her siblings growing up here, they decided to stay and they had families of their own. And so that's how I came along. And when I was about 5, my family went through a number of crises, and that caused my siblings and I to be placed in foster care. And that was at the age of 5. And so it was very interesting because now in my 30s, my memories are pretty sparse from childhood. And so what I do remember a lot of was being in foster care. And
Mm.
I went to go live with the Johnsons when I was 5 years old. And it was a pretty ideal childhood in comparison to the life we were experiencing when we were with our mom. There was a lot of struggles and just a lot of confusion day to day. And so I would say the positive thing about going into foster care was that we had the structure that we needed to really just thrive as children.
Right. Wow. And you said you had siblings. How many siblings do you have?
I have 5 total.
Oh, five total. Okay.
Yes.
And where are you age wise in that five?
I'm actually the middle child.
Wow. All right. Okay. Now, for those people out there who might not be familiar with foster care, were you all placed together or were you all separated?
I was placed with my younger sister. My older siblings went to live with family. And then I had 2 siblings that had not yet been born.
Okay.
And being with my sister, that was such a godsend. We played together. Sometimes my foster mom would dress us alike for
Okay.
church. So we had matching outfits. And just to have a best friend with me while we, just had the chance to live life as normal children, birthday parties. Our foster family even took us to Disneyland. It
Wow.
was great. It was very magical in some ways, I
Yes.
would say. Yeah.
Yes. How old were you when you all went to Disneyland?
I was 8 years old. I was
Wow.
old, yes.
Now, I need you to paint that picture for us. A lot of people out there, they've never been to Disneyland. So, what was that like for you as an 8-year-old girl? What was that like?
Well, I've been to Disneyland twice when I was 8, and actually when I went as an adult a couple of years ago. And it is such a visceral experience. And so going at the age of 8 to going to when I was 34, I would say it was the same experience.
Wow.
It's very happy, it's very safe. The rides, the environment, the ambience, the designs of the sets, the people who work there, everyone wants to be there really and truly. And you feel that. I met people who worked there for 20 plus years and they loved it. Their children worked there. And you just feel like you can be yourself. And
Yeah.
it's just anything that you can think of an amusement park with Disney at it. It was a really healing experience, actually, because that was a really tough year for my family and I. And that just really gave me a moment to just be away and
Mhm.
just relax.
Mhm. You know, when you get to do something that you've never done before, in your
Yeah.
case, going to Disneyland, you kind of have this aha moment about
Mhm.
how positive the world can be,
Yeah.
how happy the world can be, and how many possibilities are truly out there if you seek to change your life.
Yes.
Um, yeah. Did you have any other experiences as a child that were like really eye opening for you in similar ways as Disneyland?
Yes. For me, it was learning to ride a bike.
Okay.
My friend Christina actually showed me, and I actually learned pretty late, which I consider to be late. I was actually 8 years old when I learned how to ride a bike. And some of the kids in the neighborhood had already been riding when they were 4 or 5. And I just could not grasp the concept. And for me, it was just the fear of falling down on the ground and just learning to balance myself. And I remember when Christina, she was riding along with me, right? As I'm like turning my legs and she just let go. And I just went flying down the street. And I've been able to ride a bike since. But just the feeling of just freedom and just disconnecting from all my troubles and just feeling this sense of control and mobility.
Yeah.
Right? Because I had tried so hard for so many years, and to see
Right.
everyone else doing what I wanted to do and to actually be able to do it, that was like one of the best experiences in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
So was it at this time around 8 or 9 years old that you began to give life a shot and say, hey, I can be somebody great in my life because I'm having these new experiences and I'm having this fresh, new positive energy in my life?
Yes, definitely so. I mean, it was around that time where I started thinking about what I wanted to be. And I didn't really share it with anyone until I was a few years older, but I know that I was really fascinated by the stage. And what I meant by that is I watched a lot of TV growing up. And so I remember watching the Nutcracker on TV and just really just being mesmerized by the ballerina Clara as she danced. And forgive me, I don't remember the actress's name, but I remember just thinking, wow, that looks so majestic. And just watching other performances. And it wasn't any artist in particular. I will say Michael Jackson. I really liked him as a fan, but just it was actually just watching other people, famous or not, who were on a stage performing. That really drew me in. And I had moved to another foster home after my first one with the Johnsons. And my foster mom asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I was about 10. And I said, I want to be an actress. And I don't do acting now, but in my mind, I had this vision of standing on stage talking to people.
Right.
And the word actress is what was available to me,
At that time.
considering the vocabulary of a 10-year-old, right?
Right.
And so that's where it really just came out. Someone
Wow.
asking me, and like now I do that. I talk to people on stages across the nation,
Wow.
as a motivational speaker. It's
Yeah.
really cool. It's full circle, actually.
So you had experiences that kind of just expanded your horizon.
Yes.
And by the age of 10 years old, you knew that you wanted to be a star, essentially. Am I right?
And I don't even think star was the right word. I just had this vision of being on stage. I don't even think the word star came into it. It was just a matter of being in this space and being able to connect and talk to other people.
Mm-hmm.
That was the vision that I had. And like star and fame, that didn't cross my mind. It was actually being on stage and being able just to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
It really was that basic. And like I said, the word actress was the only word that came to mind that could describe what I saw for myself.
Right. So did that compel you to start, making poster boards, putting pictures out of magazines on it, writing in a journal? Did you talk to your sister about this new aspiration?
I didn't. In some ways, I was pretty introverted. It's so weird, right? Because now
Yeah.
I'm a beauty queen. I often ask myself that. No, I was a writer, though.
Okay.
That's how I like to communicate with people, is I was a writer. Anytime I had an opportunity to be on stage, believe me, I took it. I was a clarinet player in band. So I was first chair clarinet. I played piano, and I also did dance team throughout high school. And so for me, there was these opportunities to be on stage. And I was even a news reporter for our local school newspaper, as well as for our local TV show we had at school. And it's very interesting because I tried doing all these different things, and it really just didn't give me that feeling that I had when I saw myself being on stage, like talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't feel that, I guess I would call it, void till I started doing motivational speaking.
Okay.
But I had tried all these different things out trying to figure out what this stage vision I had meant.
Okay.
And it was enriching because I learned so many things from these different activities, you know?
Yeah, and so yeah, let's unpack some of those because I'm listening to you and
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a young woman or a young man who is now excited about the possibilities of becoming that which they're seeing in their minds. And so,
Yeah.
can you talk to me about how some of those programs you got into, like you mentioned the dance team? Let's start with that one.
Yeah.
How did the dance team enhance your character? Unfold that for us.
Definitely. Well, it really started, when we were young, being African American, dance and music is a huge part of the culture, right? So, like, even if you weren't interested in it, like in my household, like with my aunts and whatever it may have you, like if they told you to get up and dance and sing, you did it. You know what I mean? And the whole family did it. So, like, because there were some times where it's like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get up. But once I did it, it was so much fun. And it was such a great bonding experience with my family. And so going to school, I did like step team and like putting together routines. And then when I got to high school and I did the dance team, I was actually the dance captain. So I
Okay.
was in charge of choreography, helping the girls to learn the moves, helping them build their self confidence. And I learned so much through that, because it's not just the choreography and doing the performance, it's really about learning how to be a leader, conflict resolution, um, getting the word out, so how do you market the dance club and whatever may have you. We were featured in the yearbook. And so as far as, working with the yearbook staff to get photos, just all those different skills you learn about working with other people. I would say that was a highlight from being on dance team.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the ways that you overcame adversity when you were on the dance team? As the captain, I'm sure sometimes the administrator or the coach said, "Hey, Jamaica's going to take the lead on that." Can you talk
Yeah.
to us?
Yes. Well, one point of contention was the music,
Okay.
you know. And so that was always a battle with our advisor who was my friend's mother, as well as the school, what type of music we could perform. And so for our dance performance that we did, because I actually only did dance team for 1 year, we actually danced to a Marvin Gaye song.
Okay.
And it was really cool. And it was just really creative. And people were like, what? How are you going to dance to a Marvin Gaye song? It was actually the song I Want You. And
Okay.
so, but we did it. It was so much fun. But that actually was a lot of time and brainstorming, trying to find a song that we could play at school that wasn't explicit, but also really honored our hard work and creativity.
hmm So,
Mhm.
so that's a thing. Music choice when it comes to a dance team is a big deal because
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine it has to go along with the culture of who all's on the team. I mean, everybody might not want to dance to Marvin Gaye, but everybody might not want to dance to NSYNC. Am I right?
Yes, definitely. Well, we were trying to play the song. It was by Chingy, the rapper. He's from St.
Okay.
Louis, right? Yeah. So
Yes.
he had a song
Shout out
called,
to St. Louis.
oh, I cannot remember. What was it called?
Right there.
Not right there. But it was the song they played at the end of the music
I like
video right
that.
there. Yeah. I think that's what it was. I cannot remember.
Okay, I got you. Go ahead.
I forget the song, but we were so innocent and naive because there was a
Right.
couple of things said in the song where there was the line, "Oh, I got a piece in my pocket." I did not know what that meant in high school. Okay. I did not
Right.
live that kind of life. And my friend's mother, who was a bit more wise, she was like, there's a line in there that says, "I got a piece in my pocket." I'm like, well, what's wrong with that? What does that mean? She was like, he's talking about a gun.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, you can't play that song during your dance performance. I said, okay.
Well, you know what? If you can, I think that's a good segue into, what do you think about music these days and what we consider to be a hit record? Do you have anything to say about the overall climate of it?
Of the music industry.
The music that's coming out that's being celebrated by people clear across America.
Okay. I feel that people want to feel good, they want to party, they want music for whatever occasion. And I believe artists who work in the music industry know that. And so they create music that people want and people pay for it. And then everyone goes about their business,
Mhm.
right? So that's the short end of it. I believe, though, the type of music you listen to doesn't always define who you are. If anything, it may define what you're experiencing, what you like, but it doesn't only define who you are. I do believe, though, that music today, I believe it could be a bit more creative as
Okay.
far as, melodies, musicianship. I feel that a lot of people stick to formulas. And that's where the
Mm.
business part of the industry comes in. And so
Okay.
that does have to be respected because people work for a living in the industry,
Mhm.
even artists themselves and those behind them. And so I think that if people are looking to the music industry for, what's the word
Like
I'm looking for?
upliftment or
Well, if they're looking to the music industry
for
to,
education.
yeah, to solve their problems, to elevate themselves, to make them better people, it can do those things. If you're listening to certain artists you feel are positive and are
Mhm.
trying to uplift people. But I do feel at the same time, people have to be smart. They have to be smart and see the music industry for what it is, which is a business. And
Sure.
I believe that parents and anyone else who is, involved in a child's life, you do have to censor. And I
Yeah.
do think it was right for our administrators at school and my friend's mom, who was our advisor, to step in and say something, because looking back, I didn't want to be dancing to something I didn't know what it meant, no matter how good
Yeah.
the beat was. Right. And
Yeah.
so,
That's true.
that's how I feel about that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think you made several good points there. I think it's important to evaluate what we're listening to, evaluate what our children are listening to,
Yeah.
but also have conversations about the difference between reality and entertainment.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's the key conversation. You
Yeah,
know,
definitely.
yeah. I remember when I was younger, if I was watching a cartoon or listening to music from any genre, I knew that it wasn't reality, and that's how I was able to pick what I like and what I didn't like. I knew it was all make believe, but that was always a dividing line that I was able to draw.
Mm-hmm.
Young people today, they might not draw that same dividing line. So I
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying, that music expresses experiences, but it also gives way to the need for a conversation about the music that we're listening to, because if we're going to be really competitive, we can't be putting our best foot forward with lyrics that speak toward, a negative lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I definitely hear you there.
Thank you.
Um, what role did school spirit play in your development as a young adult?
I would say a lot. It made me feel connected with my other classmates. I
Yeah,
loved school. I was a straight A student. And to me, school was a place of constant. That was the one thing that I could depend on throughout
right.
my childhood, even if I had to move to a different home, or
Hmm.
in spite of what was happening in my home environment. And that was really encouraging for me. And when I got to high school, it was like, oh, okay, you can go to college. And I'm like, okay, I want to do that, because for me, it was like, well, I can go to college and learn a skill set and take care of myself, and I was thinking about my early life and watching my mom struggle. And I said, I saw that I was a gifted student, and that meant something. That meant that was going to be my golden ticket. I couldn't play sports. No, I gave up on that a long time ago. Dancing was my thing. Being in band was my thing, but I was not an athlete in school.
Right.
But I was a good student. I was a great student, and that was going to be my golden ticket to a better life.
Hmm.
And so, just between that and the school spirit, I just loved being at school. Yeah, it was easy to me. I loved it.
What would you say was the top four things that you did in high school that helped you to really have a advantage by the time you graduated? Because some might look at your life and say, there was a period where you were disadvantaged. When you got placed in foster care, you could have possibly been disadvantaged. Like you said, growing up in Washington State and not always being a member of the majority, that could have been seen as not being advantaged. But how were you able to use school as a vehicle to gain an advantage going into your young adult life?
That's a great question. Yes. I would say the number one thing that I had great teachers. They knew about my situation, and I was actually in special education when I was in elementary school, and just everyone was on board. They didn't judge my situation or the fact that I was lagging behind. They were going to help out Jamaica Haynes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful for my staff. They just poured themselves into their professions, into the students. And that really helped school to just be an awesome experience for me. I would say the second part is that I liked school. Like I said, I was a very talented student. So it made it easy to go to school. And even when I felt like I was the super minority, it was like, well, I got straight A's. You can't come and say anything to me.
Wow. Okay.
You couldn't even come step sideways to me because I was a great student, teachers included, and they knew that. I was very confident too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that helped, just having that confidence there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the third part was not wanting to repeat what I had saw other people that I knew repeat in my life, whether that was family, neighbors, whomever. I didn't want to be a teen mom. My mother struggled. My mother had my sister when she was 13. And it was a struggle ever since. My mother just could not get ahead. And seeing my mother suffer and struggle, and thank God my mother's doing so much better these days, I just could not fathom putting myself in that situation. I didn't think it was cute to have a baby. I didn't want a baby. I wanted to be a wife, a mother when I grew up. And I had such a great example in my first foster mother, Mrs. Johnson, who that's what she did day in and day out. And so for me, I didn't want to repeat it. I didn't think it was worth it. No matter how bad I felt, no matter how lonely I felt, I said that just wasn't it. I mean, because to me that would be going from the fryer pan into the fire, as they would say.
Yeah.
I would say the fourth thing I did that really helped me with school is my calendar. So those free calendars they give you, and I'm talking to the young folks out there, take them. That allowed me to keep my life organized. It allowed me to have an end in sight. I'm like, okay, I got this calendar in September. It was free. I didn't have to use it. I didn't have to buy it, excuse me. And I said, and then I'd go to June and I would just think, where do I want to be? Right? Yep. I had these 9 months. I don't want to look back and just be like, oh, all I did was just kick it. Because I saw what my friends went through when all they did was just kick it. They were still trying to get through community college 6-7 years later because they were steady trying to kick it or trying to live outside their means. Mm-hmm. And that was not going to be me. And so those are the four things that really helped me during my time in school.
Sure. And what I hear you saying, Jamaica, is that we all have to take our lives seriously.
Yes.
Young people clear across America, it's okay to have a good time. Even adults out there, there's some adults out there who, they may not be giving it their all. And that's not the worst mistake that you can make. The worst mistake that you can make is never turning the corner of life and saying, it's time for me to get more serious than I've ever been.
Yes.
Make sure that you round that corner. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Jamaica Haynes. She's been on a mission and she's still on a mission. We're going to talk about more of that right after this brief message. America's Next Motivator. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator. Hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by our good friends at the Pride Empowerment Network. ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take this time out to follow America's Next Motivator TV show page on Facebook. Tell a friend, tell a family member, and a young adult that we're talking to a woman right now who has a powerful message that everybody can use. And we're back here with Jamaica Haynes. Jamaica, before we went to break, I heard the emotion in your voice when you were talking about how you were determined not to fail to overcome the same adversities that your mother had faced, and that foster parents and teachers both play key roles in your success. So I know that in today's climate, there are two people who are getting a lot of pressure on their shoulders. Those are parents, foster parents, adoptive parents, and teachers. I'd like for you bilaterally to talk about the value of a positive parent and then the value of a helpful teacher. You have the floor.
Thank you, Cedric. When I think about that, I believe parents and teachers, and I'll start with the parents first, is you have to realize that whatever you're experiencing, whatever you hope for, fear, there is not one single human being since time immortal who has not experienced what you have. And when I say that, what I mean is it's so important to reach out to others for help, and that it's okay to not know, and that you can educate yourself as you go along. You are not going to know every single thing out there about what it means to be a parent or a teacher. And namely, when you are a parent, right? It is a new experience when you do become a parent. And so I feel that parents especially have to be really mindful that they're not setting themselves so high as far as expectations are concerned. But I believe that though it's important to have a vision about what you want to have happen with your family. What do you see for your family? And I think that's a question that anyone can ask themselves. I'm engaged, and before me and my partner decided to walk down the aisle, we did some premarital questions and answers and discussing what we wanted our family life to look like, especially once we have children. And so I believe by knowing what your vision is, reaching out for help, and especially building a relationship with your child, getting to know them and what they care about. And I know sometimes that's easier said than done, especially if that wasn't done for us, right? Or if we have trouble opening up. I think there are tools out there and people who can help you learn how to build those relationship skills, because I think if you have those three things in mind, that can really positively impact your parenting experience. And mind you, I don't have children, but I do feel as though just having worked with kids and talked with other parents, those things can be helpful.
So,
yes.
I just wanted to ask, can you please just give the foster parents out there, 10 seconds of encouragement? When I asked you that question, I also wanted you to talk about the foster parents, because a foster parent came into your life and did wonderful things, and in today's climate, sometimes the good foster parents out there don't get enough love. And you are an example of someone who was positively impacted by some foster parents. Can you talk to them?
Yes. If I had 10 seconds to say anything, spend time with your children, foster or not. Spend time playing with them, getting to know them, and that will strengthen your relationship.
Sure.
I think anyone can do that. Spend time with the child. I wanted to answer your question about teachers, what teachers can do to help young people. I would say the best thing is just making sure that your heart's in it, whether you're a new teacher or if you're a teacher who's been around for decades. I believe it's important to have your heart in it. Like you wake up and it's like, I can't wait to get to school, right? Like I told you, I love school. Like that feeling of love and like anticipation, you should have that when working with children. And I would say it's the same thing, getting to know your students, answering your students' questions. I had my senior year AP English teacher tell us, don't stop asking questions. And that was just so encouraging and empowering to me as I was about to leave high school and go out to the real world, because I had someone telling me that I have a right to know what's going on in the world.
Right.
not just my world, but the world at large. And that's how we keep our politicians accountable. That's how we know who our neighbors are. We need to ask those questions. And so, a really great teacher is a teacher who empowers and who doesn't try to be perfect. No one respects perfect. So, it's really important to be yourself and to have good boundaries.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so I'm hearing that you graduated high school with flying colors. Is that correct?
Yes, that was one of the happiest days of my life, was
Yeah.
graduating from high school. Yes.
Yeah. And so what did you do after that?
After I graduated high school, I was actually in California. I was
Okay.
living with family. And so I moved from California back to Washington State because it was my goal since I was 14 to attend Washington State University. And so I went through community college for 2 years, actually Tacoma Community College. And then I transferred to Washington State. And that was one of the happiest moments in my life, was opening my acceptance letter to WSU.
Mhm.
um, it was just surreal. I remember exactly where I was at. I was walking across campus at TCC, Tacoma Community College, and they had built this new bridge over a little man-made lake.
Okay.
And I was walking over it and I opened the letter and the sun was shining. It was just like a scene out of a movie. I kid you not. And I don't have the letter actually. I lost it all these years, but I remember just opening it up and it was just thinking everything that I've been through. This wow, it was just such an awesome feeling.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
And what were you studying? What did you take up?
Yes, I was studying journalism. So the foster parent that I told I wanted to be an actress, well, even though I felt like that was a cool response, she thought I meant actress in a different term.
Okay.
And so which some people think an actress to be, and so she was horrified, like, an
Okay.
actress, oh my gosh, why would that? So her response was, well, why don't you go to school to be a news reporter? You get to be
Okay.
on TV, right?
Yeah.
And you get to be expressive, and you'll learn how to write,
Mhm.
and it's a good reason to go to college. And so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll go to school to be a news reporter,
Right.
right? And that's what I did. I studied communication with an emphasis in broadcast news. And so I did all three tracks that you can with journalism. I did print, which is like writing for a newspaper. I did broadcast, which is what we're doing here, like talking to people through a broadcast signal, whether that's a television signal or through the internet. And then I also did production.
Okay.
So I'm able to do this interview with you because I have a little production experience. So I have my cell phone on a tripod, and then I have some lights and speakers that I have for doing different things. And so yeah, that's what I did in college, and I still use my degree. It's very possible to use your degree, especially a liberal arts degree, in the real world.
So you became a news reporter?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm a journalist by trade. Yes, I am.
I mean, when I was younger, I would look at the news and say, wow, like they're doing such a cool job. Whether it be the meteorologist or it just be the
Yeah,
same news anchor that you see day in, day out, they become members of your childhood. They become members of your household.
they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
You must have felt really accomplished when you became a news reporter.
I did, but I'll be honest with you. I was planning on being a news reporter for about 4 or 5 years
Hmm.
tops. I actually really wanted to be a motivational speaker. That's where my heart, lied. And I believe when I was younger, I felt more pressure to do the news reporting thing because just so many people had helped me. I wasn't sure how well received the motivational speaking piece would be. And I actually, for a long time, kind of presented it as secondary to being a reporter because, I didn't want to let people down. It sounded a lot more glamorous. But as I got older and looking for work, I was like, you know what? I have this degree. I can do this. I can actually do this on my own. I felt like I had a pretty good platform. I felt like I was a really great speaker. And so I actually did some freelance work after college as a print reporter. And I told myself, well, instead of going into TV news full time, why don't I just work towards creating my consulting business so I can do my motivational speaking? And I felt that if I wanted to work in broadcast of any kind, I could go into that at any time in my life because people in the news industry are all ages, right? And
Yes.
so that was how I approached that.
Wow. Well, can you talk to me about how you gathered the courage to pivot that which you were becoming in the world? I mean, I'm sure it wasn't an easy
Yes.
maneuver for you. Where did you get the courage from?
I mean, when I finished college, I was out on my own,
Okay.
basically. I was staying with friends here and there, and I really had nothing to lose. The big hurdle was just getting my degree, right? So I'm like, that was half the battle in my book, and no one else was going to do it but me. No one else could tell my story like me.
Right.
And I knew I could do it. And just given the stories that I learned about Black people in America and the struggles that they went through, there was almost this, I felt like so many people that I had never met who struggled, my ancestors included, your ancestors included, just who struggled. And I just felt like it'd be a pity to not try. Like there were so many people out there who paved the way for me, like for me to not step out and do it, it would have been in vain. What they went through, to help people, Black people in society, have access, go on to achieve their dreams. I mean, to be educated. I mean, when Black people were enslaved, it was against the law to be educated, to know how to read. And so I really took that to heart. And so just things like that. And then it was a dream of mine. And I would say the turning point was this actually, was I was at a child welfare conference, the Children's Justice Conference, because at the time I was working as a resource specialist for the YMCA of Greater Seattle and their foster care programs. And I was a volunteer at the conference. That's how I was able to receive admission. And I saw someone who went through foster care, and I can't remember who it was. And I remember thinking, I can get on stage and do that. I can get on stage and do that, because I just felt the person's story. It was compelling, but it was as if they just had rolled out of bed. And I said, you know what? Not only can I do that, but I can look good while I do it. And I said, I'm professional. And I didn't see any other women from foster care sharing their stories,
Mm.
at keynote addresses. And I said, there's a market here and I could do it. And just that vision that I had when I was a child, it made sense. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
Yes.
So you had a deep seated passion to begin to get on stage just like you wanted to when you were a child, but to get on stage and to tell your story.
Yeah.
I think that's phenomenal. So now my question is, what's your platform today? What's your platform? What's your
Yeah.
message?
Yeah. So I think I spoke on it briefly. I'm Ms. Evergreen State 2020 through the
Whoa,
USA Ambassador.
whoa, 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 whoa. Let's get to that after this because that's huge in and of itself.
Yes. And the reason why I'm just bringing it up is because you asked me about my platform. My
Okay.
platform is tied to being Ms. Evergreen State.
So let's talk about that first. You became Miss Evergreen State. What's that about?
Yes. And so I've been competing in pageants on and off for the last 12 years of my adult life. And to make a long story short, I was at Tacoma Community College and I was walking around and the student board had a posting for, oh, come and participate in a pageant. You'll get money for school. And so I did it and it was great. It was actually a local pageant called Miss Pierce County Scholarship Program. And it was a local for the Miss America system. And so I did that for a few years. And then there was about 10 years that went by and I discovered the USA Ambassador pageant system. I was really interested in competing again. And I found that there were age divisions for after you turn 26, which is typically what happens in Miss America. And so I was appointed my title, which meant I interviewed for it. And then I was appointed it. And I was named Miss Evergreen State. And
Wow.
so my platform is a chance to succeed, empowering youth in foster care.
Wow. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, feel free to give her a round of applause because
Oh, thank you.
we're talking about a long life journey. It wasn't a short one with all the experiences that you had along the way. And then you became one of the things that a lot of girls dream of becoming, which is the winner of a beauty pageant? Am I correct?
Yes. So, yes, I was appointed my title, which is common. Some women will either win their title, so they'll go to a pageant and they win it, Sometimes they may be appointed their title and then they'll go on and compete at a national level and even an international level.
Can you give our young ladies out there a peek inside the world of a Miss Evergreen State, the beauty pageant? Let's get rid of some of the myths about it. Are there any tips? I mean, my mind isn't doing fireworks right now because I know that a lot of young ladies out there, they wonder what does it take to be a Mrs. Fill in the blank. Can you talk about that?
Yes. What it takes is really knowing who you are as a woman. That's really important. You don't get on stage trying to be someone that you are not. It's important to be kind to people, to really get to know who they are, to really mean it. Sometimes you're not going to remember everyone's name. So it's okay to ask, can you please remind me your name? Or if you've met someone previously, can you remind me? That's better than pretending because people will know when you're being fake. Don't even try it. And you're not just, I think this is also important to say is one thing that I've discovered personally being a beauty queen is I'm not just telling my story. I'm not just volunteering or I just have this platform that's very personal to me. When I tell my story, I'm actually telling my family's story, right? And I
Yeah.
believe that's important for young women to know that you just don't rep yourself, you represent your family and your community and even your nation. So
Wow.
that's really important to know.
You made history. Was this for the year 2020 or what year?
What do you mean by I made history? I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Sure. So when you become a Mrs. Evergreen State, that's got to be in somebody's book somewhere that you became.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I'm in the Ms division, so it's MS, the abbreviation, just so you know. I'm not married yet. I get
Okay.
married in October. I would say we do have some systems out here. I and I don't think I'm the only Ms. contestant from Washington State ever in the USA Ambassador pageant system.
Right.
No, I'm not. No, but
Okay.
I feel good. I'm the first Ms. Evergreen State in my family, so that's good enough for me and everyone's.
That is absolutely. That is phenomenal. Okay. So now that was big. Okay. So now you travel and you speak and you share your message. Can you talk about your greatest success as a speaker and consultant? And by the way, what's the name of your consulting company?
It's called Clever Jam Communications.
Okay.
Yes. And you're asking me what's been my biggest accomplishment?
Yep.
Wow. Oh, excuse me. I would say, let me see here. Oh my goodness.
Well, the reason why I asked.
I have one for you.
Okay.
You want me to share it?
Yes.
My biggest accomplishment was I was at a local community event speaking. I wasn't one of the main speakers. I was actually just one of the guest attendees, and it was a forum for African Americans who were interested in learning more about child welfare. And so I went to this organization's event, and I sat at a table, and there was a woman sitting there. And I was like, okay, whatever. And we had to work together and answer questions. And at the end, one of the organization staff members walked up to me and said, there's an individual here who says she knows who and where your youngest sibling is. I had a younger sibling who was adopted out of foster care. And I was like, no, get out of here. And they were like, yes. And so I spoke with her, and she was actually the mother of my brother, and she adopted him when he was a baby. And I hadn't known where he was for about 15 years. I hadn't seen him since the day he had been born. Had no idea where he was. And so we spoke, and a few years later, we all developed a relationship. And to me, that was really defining because the reason why I went there was on the behalf of my consulting business and to do networking. If I had never went to that event, I would have never known where my brother was. And so that to me was like, I don't know where a Clever Jam will take me, but if it meant just finding my brother, that's good enough for me. I would say that was probably the biggest highlight.
That is huge. And also I want to add to that, everybody should be encouraged to share their story because when you share your story,
Yes.
positive things happen. I think that, spiritually good things happen. You take on new muscle, spiritual muscle, if you will. And then just in your normal life, positive things will happen. People will let you know, hey, I was able to use that as a source of inspiration. When you told your story, that helped me. I believe that each and every individual has a story. And so for you, when you started telling your story, if nothing else, it led to you, reconnecting with one of your
Yes.
biological siblings.
Yes, it did.
Had you never decided to
Mm-hmm.
speak or to act on your passion to speak, you might not have had that situation happen in your life.
Mm-mm.
And so it's because you stepped out on your passion that you had something amazing provide a sense of wholesomeness for you. And so I want people out there who watching this episode today to be encouraged to step out on your passion and
Yes.
do it. Step out on your idea of what's best for you and do it. Because just like Jamaica is saying, something phenomenal can happen for you when you take that step. You guys feel free to get in the comment section, drop a comment, drop a question if you have it here, because we're talking to somebody who really became a success story, and I'm so happy to have her here today. So people can get in touch with you at cleverjam.com if they want you to speak.
That's correct. Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're
Yes,
welcome.
yeah. You have one life to live. That's what I tell people. Do not wait. You have one life to live. No one else will do it for you. No one's going to do you for you. At the end of the day, ask somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
No one is going to do you for you. Hello.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Like you have your show here, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be here unless you did the work.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right. Now, do you do anything else besides speak? Do you also do workshops, trainings, anything like that?
Yeah. So I do strategic communications guidance. So I took a certificate course through the University of Washington that focused on public relations. So I've done that sort of work. I've also done a little bit of business coaching. I just actually launched that. So a lot of people approach me asking, how did you start your business? How do I find a niche? And so what I've set up is people have the opportunity to speak with me, and then I can point them in the right direction as to what will work for them. And then also I do facilitation. So I do workshops. I've done retreats. And so that's what I do over at Clever Jam.
All right. Hey, if you all are looking for somebody to come out and represent and style, get in touch with Jamaica Haynes. Now, as we round third base here, I have 3 questions for you, and I'd like you to field them. See, I'm using my TV talk today. I need you to field these 3 questions, please. The first is, what is survival to you?
Survival is doing whatever you have to do to make it in life, but you want to make sure whatever you're doing is that it comes from a place of your values and that you're not out here doing something strange for some change, just to keep it 100. It's really important to work from a place that's, moralistic and really genuine.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What is success to you?
Success to me is never giving up. Some days may be just crazy, but you just have to get through them, and really just knowing who you are, what you want in life, and really just leading with that.
Okay. What is greatness to you?
Greatness is you. You as a person, there is no one else out there like you. And anybody, who wants to work with you, who wants to know you, I want people to know that you are one of a kind and that there is only you. You aren't one of many. But yet you are part of a larger community. And that's really important to know. But yeah.
Okay. Jamaica Haynes, I want to let you know that I've seen you. I see your work. I see your advocacy. I recognize the effort that you put in to get to where you are today. I see the resiliency in you, and I commend it. I want to let you know that I give you a crown today while you're still living. I give you respect, and I want to let you and the world know that Jamaica Haynes is America's next motivator.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. All right. I'll talk to you later. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you stopping by today for America's Next Motivator. If you didn't know, yesterday was my birthday, but that doesn't mean that the show stops. That doesn't mean that the work stops. And that doesn't mean that my partnership with you stops. Each and every time you see an episode of America's Next Motivator, there's going to be something here for you. You just need to stop by and pick it up.